365 days, 3 missions, 1 goal. Align myself mentally, physically, and spiritually towards my highest self, aka 2.0. Intro is heat, come on. 365 aligned. What is it? Essentially a 365-day protocol I committed myself to at the beginning of 2026 to align myself mentally, physically, and spiritually, right? Dialing in my mental, physical, and spiritual health. Aligning my mind, my body, and my soul towards that 2.0 version of myself, right? Bryan 2.0. The protocol itself is split into 3 phases. Phase 1 is Soul 2.0, merging spirituality, individuality, embracing your true, authentic self, finding your identity towards the man you know you're meant to become, and aligning your lifestyle towards your desired reality. Phase 2 is Body or Athlete 2.0, merging health and fitness through aligning your training, your nutrition, your recovery, and embracing your bio-individuality, right? Learning to trust and respect your own body signals. From there, third and final phase is Mind or Creator 2.0, merging mindset and personal development to embrace your creativity and go out and create and spread your unique gift to the world. Not just creation, but also information alignment relative to being a student of life and intentionally consuming instead of mindlessly consuming. Mofos on Insta and TikTok. That's pretty much an overview of 365 aligned. Currently in phase 1, which is Soul. I kind of made the recent decision to stick in this phase up until the end of April because, 4 months for each, right? 4 months of soul, 4 months of body, 4 months of mind. It just makes sense. Honestly, nothing's set in stone with a 365-day protocol, let's be real. Before I get into the meat and potatoes of this whole thing in terms of the goals I have for mind, body, and soul, what I'm doing specifically to align myself mentally, physically, and spiritually, it's important for me to preface as to why I'm doing this. Why am I trying to hold myself accountable for 365 days, right? A whole ass year. Reality is, it was around 2 years ago, around this time period actually, where I committed myself to actually becoming that highest version of myself. December 2023, and I just remember how I was just living, I was just going through life on autopilot basically. My last year of high school at the time, and I was hitting the gym. I always did good in school. A relationship at the time as well. I still knew that I was nowhere near the man that I know God designed me to be. I remember around that time I rediscovered the whole idea of self-improvement online. I got absolutely hooked. I was so intent on just, improving, maxing out my stats, improving my life, dialing in my mindset, dialing in my fitness. But regardless of that burning desire I had to just become that best version of myself, early 2024, that was the hardest period of my life, right? I was genuinely rock bottom. Your 2-year relationship I was in ended. Physically, I was in the worst shape because I was, dirty bulking, insecure about my appearance, heartbroken, directionless, insecure. Overall, I was just misaligned from the identity I wanted to create within myself. After a few months of just feeling absolutely lost, right? Last year of high school, I was going to graduate. I had to decide about what college I was going to go to, what I was going to do after graduation, right? It was such a burden on me mentally, and it's like, given the circumstances at the time, it's like, I was going through it, man. I was going through it. It was April 2024. We're on a random whim, I opened up my notes app on my phone and I titled it Bryan 2.0. And from there, honestly, the rest is history, right? That right there was almost like my declaration of independence. Declaration of independence relative to actually committing myself, right? Because at the beginning of that year, I had that intention, but for the most part, I was doing it for others. That relationship I was in at the time was a large motivator for me to improve. But once I lost that, then, the motivation kind of just, evaporated. And so that second instance where I actually committed myself to becoming that 2.0 version of myself was my way of signaling to myself, like, I'm going to do this for myself. I'm not going to do it for external validation. I'm not going to do it to try to live up to other standards. I'm going to do it because I genuinely desire a new identity, right? Detaching from my old ways and stepping into alignment with the man I know I was meant to become. And since then, I've completely transformed my life, right? It was especially during that summer, summer 2024, after I graduated, where I just completely 10x'd my life. And it was through that I realized unlocking that new identity, right? Becoming that best self, it comes down to developing your mind, your body, and your soul. So it was within 2024 and 2025 where I was just relentlessly experimenting and pursuing that alignment. And genuinely, I made leaps and bounds of progress in terms of, starting this whole content creation thing, getting into the best shape of my life like twice, cultivating a strong relationship with God, learning to embrace my authenticity, overall understanding what it means to actually live in alignment with myself. With all this knowledge that I've accumulated over the past 2 years, I noticed that I didn't necessarily have like a set system or protocol in which I could actually apply these things, right? A lot of it was kind of just in theory, and I noticed I had reached a point where it's like I knew so much in terms of mentally, physically, spiritually aligning myself, but I didn't have a set thing in which I could actually go out and execute upon this. Towards the end of 2025, where I just noticed I was constantly experiencing this fluctuation of, feeling aligned and then feeling misaligned, right? Constantly be going through these periods of highs and lows, instances where it felt like I was doing everything right, but at the same time, I didn't have the results or the consistency to show for it. I was kind of just like experimenting and playing around with things, relative to my mental, physical, and spiritual endeavors. Into 2026, I realized that I needed a set system, right? A set protocol to commit myself to for the next 365 days, to this into something tangible, right? Something with structure and organization that I can actually stick to, and that help other young men aspiring to be that 2.0 version of themselves transform their lives in the same way that I have relative to where I first started early on 2024, man. Reflecting on how far I've came, man, it genuinely has been a ride, right? It has been such a journey. But this year, right, 2026, this is the year where I'm actually putting things into practice, right? Where I'm actually taking things to the next level in terms of the specific goals I have within, my fitness, within content, especially learning more about myself, right? Self-discovery as a means for self-mastery, right? Deepening my relationships with myself, with God, with my family, with my community and brotherhood. That's really what this journey has been, just discovering what I'm capable of mentally, physically, and spiritually, man. But yeah, now you understand the why behind 365 Aligned. It was way beyond the surface level desire to, become your best self and achieve self-mastery, because everybody wants to become their best selves. But truthfully, for me, man, 2.0, it hits deep, runs deep, and it truly is something that I am passionate and committed to, relative to not just unlocking that version within myself, right? Continuing to align myself towards the man I know I'm meant to become, but also helping others do that above all else, man. Looking to transform the lives of others through this content creation thing, man. Helping other guys become their own 2.0s. Align their mind, their body, and their soul towards that version of themselves. But nonetheless, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this whole protocol. Something in my head. Oh, you serious, bro? Got all the sauce pulled up on my Notion right now, so I'm just gonna have it up on the screen next to me so y'all can see. But the overarching goals for mind, body, and soul, right, within spiritual alignment is generally facilitating deeper alignment towards that 2.0 version of myself come the end of 2026. So my biggest objective spiritually is really just designing a life that 100% energizes me and enhances my soul above all else, to where I never feel drained. I just wake up and I'm just looking forward to the day. You wake up and you just spring out of bed. Being able to facilitate that every single day, right, regardless of the circumstances, is a true aim within Soul 2.0, this first phase. And then physically, I'm trying to do a body recomp at 130 pounds, right? That's how much I weigh right now, to beat my previous physique from summer 2024 and then early 2025, because those were the two times where I was in undeniably the best shape. But the reason why I mentioned without obsession or over optimization was, especially early 2025, I was the leanest I'd ever been, right? The way in which I got into that shape, it wasn't sustainable long term, because I eventually fell out of it because I had to, obsess over calories, spam hamster wheel cardio, on the treadmill and the Stairmaster. It was mainly from this lens of just obsessing and over fixating on fitness so much and just trying to optimize everything. My overall philosophy and priorities have shifted dramatically since then, and now I just simply want to beat that previous physique, right? Best myself whilst being at the same weight. Body recomposition without the obsession, without the over optimization, intuitive eating, doing forms of cardio I love, and just overall pushing my health and fitness in a way to where it's building my body and enhancing my soul in the process. And mentally, as I alluded to earlier, it largely comes down to transforming others' lives through content creation, right? Bring this whole idea and philosophy of 2.0 into an actual, brand, an actual business, a means by which I can derive purpose and make my own living doing something that I genuinely love. And similar to the physical, the reason I put, without BS self-help advice and hustle culture type mentalities, because in the same way that I was so obsessed with like optimization within my health and fitness, it was the same exact thing when I got into self-improvement in terms of, doing all the habits and the routines, so discipline, sticking on the regimented routine, working 24/7. To optimize everything for growth and improvement. Clearly it's not evil to want to improve yourself, but when it becomes this thing where it's like your entire personality and you're sacrificing your soul in the process, right? You're your relationship with yourself, with a higher power, right, with those you love, it becomes this thing of like selfish improvement instead of self-improvement, bro. That's why when you throw soul into the equation, it becomes more of this thing of like selfless improvement, to where of course you're improving yourself for yourself, you're also doing it for the sake of others, knowing that it can also help them improve their lives. Yeah, those are pretty much the overarching mind, body, soul goals for 365 Align. To keep it 100, I'm about to eat dinner with my parents soon, so I look, gotta speed this up, I'm not gonna lie. But actually, this is a perfect segue into getting into the spiritual alignment stack, right? What it is I'm doing specifically to align myself spiritually towards my 2.0 self. Right now, I'm prioritizing 6 things. Number 1, identity priming, right? Taking heart in who I once was and affirming who I'm becoming. How I'm doing that is essentially I have this thing called an alignment board, basically pictures over the past few years from 2024 till now that remind me of who I once was and remind me who I'm becoming, right? Things I've achieved, all the progress I've made. That way it allows me to embrace both my past and current identity whilst being in pursuit of a new one. Along with that, something I call inner work to build spiritual maturity through self-reflection and godly wisdom. So for me, it's largely just reading my Bible daily, and also journaling here and there. I prefer journaling digitally just because I'm able to like type more. Rants and yaps within those journals, man. Just huge thought dumps. Relationship building, this one is huge, right? Investing intentional quality time towards my family and community. Right, as I mentioned, I'm about to go eat dinner with my parents, and it's something I completely neglected early on, back in like 2024, coming out of that low point in my life where I cause I just wanted to like isolate myself from like everybody and just lock in and double down on self-improvement. And as a result, my relationship with my parents suffered a lot. And so it's been over the past few months that I've really begun to prioritize that, especially in like taking myself out of that mindset of like, oh, I'm just gonna focus on me, bro. Along with that, I'm currently in this online community, shout out Crusadia. I'm gonna show up for the brothers in their micro adventures. This one's huge, creating novel experiences and placing myself in new environments. Once again, one of the things that especially took me out of that low point back, summer 2024, was beginning to put myself out there more and more, doing new things, It's so easy to just get caught up in just monotonous, robotic routine and just replay the same days over and over and over again. Just these micro adventures where I'm intentionally putting myself in new environments and actually going out and exploring the world, right? Living life, creating those experiences and memories, because that's what life is all about, man. To live spontaneously and just do random side quests within the day, man. To me, that is lifestyle alignment. Forward soul enhancing activities, right? Engaging in passion driven hobbies that enhance the soul. So for me, that's perfect, right? Anime, manga, absolutely love. And also cooking. Things for me are those like activities and hobbies where they're like not necessarily productive, but they just enhance my soul and they just fulfill me so much. And an energy chakra, at the end of every day, I track the things that energize me and drain me, so I know what things to cut out in terms of, what's draining me and what to do more of, so that way I can front load those things that energize me. Really, when I go to do it tonight, I'm probably gonna write down this in terms of like, recording for the YouTube. This is genuinely so fulfilling, man. Like recording content for Instagram, dude, recording long form YouTube videos, bro, this is where I live. This is where I can project my most authentic self, right? And of course, within spiritual alignment, that is the biggest thing, right? That was the spiritual stack. Now for the physical and the mental. And this is important. Because as I mentioned, phase 1 is soul 2.0. So when it comes to my mind and my body, what I'm doing, what I'm practicing is, this thing that I call mind body minimalism. Kind of like in the gym where you prioritize a specific muscle group, hitting that first in the workout, doing a bit more volume for that muscle group. In a sense, I'm like prioritizing soul and maintaining my mind and body within this first phase. What it comes down to for me is just doing the bare minimum when it comes to my training, my nutrition, and my recovery on the physical, creation, and information on the mental. But right now, my current baseline when it comes to training, nutrition, and recovery is that training is 2 workouts a day, right? 1 cardio focus, 1 mobility / resistance focus. Me, I don't take rest days, and I just value movement and living a highly active, athletic lifestyle. To nutrition, minimalist dieting, and all day fasting in the early AM, and then I don't eat anything until like before bed in the PM. I'm just fasting all day in between. Like right now I'm fasted. I've been fasted since like 8 or 9, and it's like 7 p.m. right now. Part of it is leveraging the fasted state for that heightened state of consciousness, and of course to just simplify my diet. Specifically what I'm eating is just strictly animal protein, fruits, veggies, and dairy, right? No grains, no rice, no oats. It's like, I love those, but I'm just keeping it super minimalistic. Pre-bed ritual to downregulate my nervous system leading up to sleep. So what I like to do is meditation, maybe some visualization, reading, right? I'll read up on some manga pre-bed, right? Berserk right now, absolutely peak the physical alignment stack. And for the mental creation, it has been posting daily on IG, but now that I'm gonna start documenting on YouTube, I'll probably have to change that up a bit. Really still going to like record content as my daily baseline. When it comes to information, intentional long form consumption, right? What I call lessons to action, to where I'm intentionally consuming content designed to fast track my goals, and it's about absorbing the lessons and then converting them into tangible actions, right? Not just mindlessly consuming content for the sake of consuming, but actually leveraging it, weaponizing that desire to learn and consume content, towards facilitating for that mental and just overall alignment towards 2.0. So my current baseline within that is just 1 lessons to action video at a time. Been watching some about like content creation, personal branding. You just take notes on videos in here and then just write out a couple actionables to do, and then I won't watch another video until I complete those actionables. That way I'm not just consuming, and I'm actually leveraging consumption as a means for creation. Outside of that, as part of like my information diet, just reading 1 chapter / principle daily from a book of choice. Current literary weapon is reality transurfing, right? This book is absolutely goated. First chunk of my overall philosophy in terms of like mind, body, and soul, dude, I attribute to this book. Such a banger. Yeah, that's pretty much the mental, the physical, and the spiritual stack. Before I sign off, bro, because my parents are waiting for me and I need to grub. These things are subject to change given the nature, as I mentioned earlier, of a 365-day protocol, because the thing is that these aren't concrete rules and disciplines that I'm forcing myself to follow, right? This is just simply giving yourself permission to live in alignment with your mind, your body, and your soul, right? Whatever it is that allows you to develop yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually, this is what it looks like. I thought it was just important to mention that because I'm constantly, like refining, and I learn more and more about myself in terms of like, oh, I gotta continue simplifying this within the mental or the physical. Yeah, that's pretty much the full 365 aligned breakdown, boys. So it leads me to say, man, like if you're also in pursuit of self-mastery, right, becoming that 2.0 version of yourself, value your mental, your physical, and your spiritual health, right? You realize there's more to life than just, like fitness and self-improvement, and that to live authentically, right? Living in alignment with who you are fundamentally. The thing that ties all of these things together, focusing on developing your mind and body, should only come after you've nailed that strong spiritual foundation within yourself. If you're also in pursuit of that 2.0 version of yourself, follow along for the journey, right? Also posting on IG as well, documenting on there, just me like spamming my stories with things that I'm doing real time. So if this resonated at all, if you're interested, if you want to join along within the 365 aligned journey, aligning mind, body, and soul towards that highest self, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. So then, about to go grub with the fam, right? Prioritize the relationships, get in the nourishment for the body, the mind, and soul. Stay aligned, y'all.